A reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians. Brothers and sisters, strive eagerly for the greatest spiritual gifts, but I shall show you a still more excellent way. If I speak in human and angelic tongues, but do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clashing cymbal. And if I have the gift of prophecy and comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away everything I own, and if I hand my body over so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It is not jealous, it is not pompous, it is not inflated, it is not rude. It does not seek its own interests, it is not quick-tempered, it does not brood over injury, it does not rejoice over wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes on all things, and endures all things. Love never fails. If there are prophecies, they will be brought to nothing. If tongues, they will cease. If knowledge, it will be brought to nothing. For we know partially and we prophesy partially, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I used to talk as a child, think as a child, reason as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. At present, we see indistinctly as in a mirror, but then face to face. At present I know partially, then I shall know fully, as I am fully known. So faith, hope, and love remain these three, but the greatest of these is love. The word of the Lord. Now, when I was a teenager, I used to play youth golf. And there was one tournament where we were all gathered around the first tee box, and we were watching the older players tee off. And one player steps up to his ball, it was a par 3, and hits a beautiful shot. I mean, it's just flying nice up in the air, and it's going straight for the hole. And right when it gets to about the hole, we hear a big bang, and the ball shoots off to the left and into the sand bunker. What happened is the ball hit the stick right before it went into the hole. So instead of having a hole-in-one, he got a 4. Now, a couple of years later, different tournament, different course, I was the one stepping up to that ball on a par 3. And I set up for my swing, take it back, and I hit the ball. Terrible shot. The ball is low flying and it's looking pretty bad, but what happens is it bounces right before the green, and kind of makes its way up onto the green, rolls into the green, and boom, hole-in-one. Now, a popular saint, but was not very popular in her day, was Therese of Lisieux. She felt that she was called to do great things, and she wanted to be just like Joan of Arc. But instead of doing great large things, that made other saints famous, we know that she created her own way, the little way. And she said that Jesus taught her the lesson of love, which is the secret of perfection. In this reading by Paul, he tells us that he will show us a more excellent way, the way of love. He tells us that without love, anything we gain means nothing. And in Luke, we hear Jesus confirm the greatest commandment by the scholar, who said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself." Now, in today's culture, we're so picky. We want to just be perfect. We want to have everything be perfect. Going out of college, maybe some of us thought, oh, I'm going to have the perfect job, the perfect house, the perfect wife or perfect husband, the perfect kids. Everything is going to be perfect. We built this mentality of this kind of perfection. And yet, when some people reach what we think is perfect, or they think something is perfect, they might end up miserable, very unhappy. And even in the church today, we have this notion of what's perfect, Well, what's the perfect Catholic? Someone that goes to Mass daily, that says the rosary, that goes to benediction, that reads the Bible, and they're just completely pious. We have this little check mark. What's going to get us into heaven? Got my rosary for today, check. But yet, it means nothing if we don't have love, if we don't put love into it. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the Mass and the Rosary are great things. Even right after this reading, Paul tells us to pursue love, but also to strive eagerly for the spiritual gifts. And, because I was in that mentality. I was like, well, when I join the order, I'm going to change completely. I'm going to be Rosary every day, Mass every day, all these things every day. I'm just going to become this pious and holy man. And I look around at some of my brothers, and sometimes I felt a little jealous because I said, man, there's a holy guy right here. He seems so pious, so great. Look at his reflection. And earlier this week, I was listening to a song. It was by Danielle Rose, and it really just struck with me because in this song she was saying how she wanted to be poor like Francis, to cut her hair off like Claire, to just completely be lost to the world like Therese of Lisieux. But the focus was that God makes us to be us. Her song, the title is "The Saint That Is Just Me." How can we be just us? And that's through love. To love God and to love our neighbor and to love ourselves. Because if we don't love God, we can't truly love ourselves. If we don't truly love ourselves, we can't love our neighbor. So love is what will make things perfect. So if a terrible shot can turn into a hole-in-one, then God can make us, the imperfect, perfect, because love never fails.